Hello, welcome to another edition of Sense and Nonsense. My name is P Tharyan and you're watching the Motown India channel. I have a lot of friends in the coastal cities and towns of this country, especially Mumbai, Chennai, and even Kochi. And I have a piece of advice for them. Please buy a boat, not a car. Now you guys will be wondering, "Bhai, humse chappu kyun chalwa rahe ho?" I'll come to that later. But before that, let me remind you that in the city of Bengaluru, a week or so back, there were heavy rains. A good part of the city was submerged in water. We could see cars like the Lexus and the Bentleys and many other expensive cars half submerged in water. It was a sad state of affairs. I'm sure they would have only wished they had a boat at that point of time and not a car. So let me explain to you what the situation all over the world is. A lot of people would be asking, ho kya raha hai? Now let me scientifically explain that to you. First and foremost, I'm sure you've heard of these words, ozone layer. Well, many years back, a decade or two back, there was a hole in the ozone layer. Now, what is this ozone layer? This was a layer in the atmosphere very close to Earth, which covered the Earth and protected us from the harmful rays of the sun. It's like a sunscreen you put on your face and your hands, especially when you go sunbathing, so that the harmful effects of the sun doesn't really affect your skin. Similarly, the ozone layer is important to protect this earth, the people, the crops and everything inside, and even the animals from the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. Now, what prompted this ozone layer to develop a crack, in fact a hole? Those rays, sun rays which seeped in through that little gap in the ozone layer caused a lot of harmful effect on people and living beings and even plants on Earth. So what led to that? In fact, at that point of time, we were using refrigerators and air conditioners which had a gas that went by the name of CFC, or chlorofluorocarbons. And there was CFC as well as hydrochlorofluorocarbon. All these were very, very harmful. But over a period of time, thanks to the Geneva Convention and subsequently the Montreal Protocol, we have got rid of most of the gases. In fact, the gases which are there, which are being used in our air conditioners, in our refrigerator, in our fire extinguishers, in our aerosols, well, they have all been changed to a more safer gas or chemical. But that doesn't mean everything is safe. Now, while this ozone layer has been repaired to a great extent, the fact is the Earth is getting warmer thanks to the new gases and chemicals that are being used. Well, as the needs of people are increasing, so are the ill effects of it. So that brings me to the topic which is often discussed, global warming. Now, what is that? Now, this global warming bit is a very serious issue. And now, when I talk of global warming, we have to talk about greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is basically, it's like a blanket all over the earth, preventing the heat from dissipating and making the planet warmer. Now, what exactly are these greenhouse gases? They comprise of carbon dioxide mainly, then you have methane, and then you have nitrous oxides. Now, all these are emanated and lead to the warming of the entire earth, and it's been happening. And the disastrous consequences of global warming is for us to see climate changes and effects on marine life and subsequently on our health. Now, if I were to tell you what are the things that produce these greenhouse gases, to begin with, our greed. The reason is simple. We have a lot of internal combustion engine vehicles out there, millions and millions all over the world. We drive them from point A to point B, and we're going crazy buying cars and motorcycles and scooters, while all of them are emitting these horrible gases, and these are the greenhouse gases. And as these greenhouse gases are being produced by vehicles and animals and by other means, the earth is getting warmer. So how are these gases produced? You have fossil fuels, you have gases from natural gases, then you have petroleum products. These in fact get into vehicles to move them and subsequently help us go from one place to another. So because of the use of fossil fuels, the greenhouse gases are being produced in abundance. And that's the reason why the world over we are moving to electric vehicles. But electric vehicles वो दूध के धुले हुए नहीं हैं. I'll come to that in a different episode. They too have their massive drawbacks. But I'm going to stick to fossil fuels, and I'm going to stick to activities like deforestation, mining. All these are indirectly or directly aiding the production of greenhouse gases and subsequently the warming of the earth. Now, carbon dioxide we know is produced from combustion engines, but what about methane? A lot of people say desist from eating meat. So a lot of people say meat खाने से क्या हो जाता है भाई? The source of meat is what is really dangerous. The cattle, the cows, the sheep, the goats, they produce methane within their system, and that is very dangerous. All over the world they breed large amounts of cattle, that includes cows and buffaloes and also sheep, in order to ensure that the meat eating industry is growing, whether it's your beef burger or whether it's your other non-veg burgers. They have to breed these animals, and these animals in turn produce a lot of methane. Then of course you have deforestation. When you get rid of forests and trees, these trees absorb a lot of carbon dioxide. So when you have these buildings coming up in place of forests, that means you are getting rid of the source that is able to get rid of carbon dioxide. And when global warming takes place, everything is getting warm. Even our ocean currents and ocean is getting the seawater, and the ocean temperatures are rising. That is affecting the marine life, and eventually is going to affect the climate, and eventually you will have erratic rain, too much of rain or too little of rain. There will be drought. So it has a disastrous consequence on the climate around us, the entire pattern all over the world, whether it's Europe, whether it's US, things are going crazy. And that's what's happening with greenhouse gases and the harmful effect of these gases on Mother Earth. So that brings me to the favorite set of words which are being used by industrialists today, carbon footprint. और ये carbon footprint का क्या मतलब है? Carbon footprint का ये मतलब है कि each individual, whether it's you or me, we get into an activity that produces greenhouse gases. You must have seen people, especially the rich, with their retinue of cars, 10 cars, 12 cars. Even middle class guys have 3 cars, 4 cars. Now everybody is going around in their cars. Daddy is going in their car, mama is going in a separate car, beta apne car mein chala raha hai, someone else is riding a motorcycle. There's lack of carpooling, there's lack of use of public transport, especially by the middle class and upper middle class. When a politician moves, he moves with a retinue of cars as security, and all that is leading to more greenhouse gases. We don't realize that. So the carbon footprint per person is the greenhouse gases that are generated by the activities an individual indulges in. So on an average in the United States, a person generates around 16 tons. That's his carbon footprint. In the rest of the world, including all the poor people and the rich people, it's around 4 tons. In India too, middle class and lower middle class generate very little carbon footprint. But the guys, especially who are rich and who are CEOs of companies who talk too much about carbon footprint, perhaps they generate the maximum carbon footprint. So if you have a house that has got 10 floors and it's all air conditioned, you are generating harmful gases. Similarly, if you have 25 cars in your garage and almost everybody in your household is using every different car which is not electric, then you are generating greenhouse gases. So among the rich, the carbon footprint is a lot higher, yet they talk about reducing carbon footprint. इतना फनी है ना ये, समझ आ रहा है आपको? ये कार्बन फुटप्रिंट हम लोग बोलते रहते हैं, कार्बन फुटप्रिंट सबसे ज़्यादा ये रिच लोग ही जनरेट करते हैं. जो गरीब है उसका कार्बन फुटप्रिंट बहुत कम है. अमेरिका में 16 टन है, यहाँ पता नहीं 15 होगा या 16 होगा. When it comes to the rich people, must be 1 or 2 when it comes to the very poor guy who doesn't even have a car and uses the public transport and maybe doesn't even have an air conditioner at home or even a refrigerator at home. So as our lifestyles are improving and getting better and we are getting more and more comfortable with the good things in life, we are also generating a lot of greenhouse gases. And what is this greenhouse gases doing? Is just warming up the earth. And what is happening? No, not only are we sweating, we are also making sure that everything around us is getting hotter. The temperature of the earth is slowly increasing. And when that happens, that has even more disastrous consequences. And what exactly is that? Well, the fact is that we have something called glaciers. And glaciers are huge ice sheets. And you have icebergs too. Now, what's the difference between an iceberg and a glacier? Glacier is the huge ice sheets, especially the ones you find in Antarctica and Greenland. They're massive chunks of ice, and when they break off slowly by a process known as calving, calving, when they crack out and fall, they get into the oceans and seas, especially the oceans, and you find icebergs there. They are tukras of that ice which have fallen into the ocean. Now, that ice is melting rapidly, and that is dangerous. So what happens if ice melts? I'm sure all of you have gone to Shimla or some hill station where there is snow. We love to play with the snow like that and say, "Wow, kitna maja aa raha hai." That ice melts, and the next winter season the ice comes back. Then we also know of another ice where you put in a glass and pour some whiskey on it, and you have whiskey on the rocks. When the ice melts, your whiskey becomes cold and you sip it and you feel very good. Well, I'm not talking about those ice. I'm talking about sheets and sheets, kilometers of ice, and that's in Greenland and Antarctica. Now, Antarctica kahan hai, Greenland kahan hai, wo bhi main aapko bataunga. But now what is happening is, when those are going to melt, and as they are melting because of rising temperature, the ocean level and the sea level, they are going to rise, and it's rising. And when that rises, water is getting into coastal areas, and that is exactly what I'm saying. Chappu chalana seekh lo bhai, kyunki end mein boat hi kaam aayega, especially all those who live in Chennai, Mumbai and all the other regions. So the boat is going to be the only solution for many of us. So coming back to this glacier, there is this huge chunk of ice in Antarctica that goes by the name of Thwaites. Now, the latest report and latest study says this Thwaites Glacier 2 is cracking up. And if that cracks up, they say within a decade from 2021, that is by 2031, as early as that, if it collapses into the ocean, then you can imagine the disastrous consequences of what is going to happen in many of the areas around us. So can we prevent this global warming from affecting our lives in a very adverse manner? I personally think it's a bit too late in the day, no matter what we try. If you remember that movie, The Italian Job, there was this character by the name of Skinny Pete. At that point of time, he said, and I remember the dialogue very clearly, what he says is, don't mess with Mother Nature, mother-in-law, and mother-freaking Ukrainians. Well, when it comes to mother-in-law, you have to ask a married guy, what happens if you mess with your mother-in-law? And when it comes to mother-freaking Ukrainians, you have to ask the Russians what they've learned from attacking them. But when it comes to messing with Mother Nature, we have been witnessing and experiencing the disastrous consequences over the last couple of decades. Now, if we don't behave, it's going to be a major catastrophe which is going to be there for us to confront. So before I leave, let me tell you where the hell is Antarctica and where the hell is Greenland. Now, if you see this globe, you'll realize India is here. And most of you have traveled, I'm sure, to places in Europe, you go like that, and then you finally, I'm sure, would have visited places in the United States and perhaps even Canada. Now, this is where Greenland is, just a little away from Canada. So it's not very far, but you'll be wondering what happens if ice melts here, and how will it affect India? Yeah, India is here. But if you realize this earth is round, not flat, so the Antarctica is here. It's here. And if you were to see Antarctica, this area, if ice melts here, India is not very far. India is here. That's the distance. That's the distance. So it's going to affect the ocean levels. If the water rises here, it's going to affect a lot of countries all over the globe. So till the next time, it's ciao from me.